Hello there. I would like to talk with people a little bit about the Faeries, what does it call it? The Faeries Oracle. The Faeries Oracle by Brian Froud, art by Brian Froud, and text by Jessica Macbeth. I have actually done kind of an initial review of this deck in another place, in another video. But I wanted to revisit it because I want people to realize, I think that sometimes people think that this is somehow light energy. They think of fairies. Oh, please, fairies. When in fact, this deck can kick some psychological butt. It's not a funny deck. It's not a light deck. It's not a funny deck. It can give you a very happy, joyful, expansive kind of a reading. It can do that. But what I'm finding working with these cards is that if you have any psychological bogeys, this deck will nail it. This deck will find it and it will point it out and say, here it is. Here's what's going on. Here's what you're missing. Here's what you're dealing with. Here's what's creating your situation. It has a whole host of what the writer calls challengers. And these are the little critters that pop up when there's something that needs to be addressed psychologically. I don't know that it's always deep. Sometimes it's kind of light and you just need to be called out on it. Like I recently did reading, I guess it was my full moon reading for January. The Gloominous Doom came up. Okay, it's not a super deep one. That's one more about crying over spilled milk, just like, wanting to wallow in small sadness, that kind of thing. But there are others, like there's a card that's about deception, self-deception, all kinds of things. There's a card that's about depression. So there's a nasty card for inner critics. And I'm finding that people really appreciate when these things are called out. It's not happy reading. It's not one of those things you're glad to see turn up. But some people are like, oh my gosh, that is so true. That is so true. And yeah, I really need to face that. So some people call this shadow work. I don't know if it's shadow work or not. I've never thought in those terms. But if you're really trying to get to the bottom of something, consider requesting a reading with the Faeries Oracle from me. And it's not elaborate. Sometimes I like to get carried away and I pull 10,000 cards and just have a ball. That's usually not for a first reading for someone, by the way. I usually play it more, a little safer for a first reading. So with this deck, almost exclusively, although I use it with other decks when I'm doing multi-deck readings, I will pull the fairies. But when I'm just using the fairies, the basic spread that I usually use is it's a 5-card that has one in the middle, which is the essence. And these are named after the, I call them the classes of fairies. She categorized these fairies in the book that she has here that came with the cards. And there was essence, there was the she, which are the fairy royalty, and the guides, the helpers, and the challengers. And so the middle card I take to be the essence of the situation. And then the card above the essence I call the ruler. What is ruling you at this time? And then the card to the right is the guide, or what will pull you forward, what is urging you forward out of this situation, or just forward in general. And then below the essence card is the helper. So what energy is helping you at this time? Can you lean on, kind of? And then the card to the left of the essence is the challenger card. And sometimes even positive cards will come up in that challenger, and to me that means you're not acknowledging this, or you're not embracing a certain energy that would help move you forward. So the guide kind of pulls you forward, the challenger is kind of dragging you backward, or preventing you from moving forward as quickly as you might otherwise. So that is my preferred spread to start with this deck. And I don't know that I've done really anything else. It's just such a strong, gives such great feedback, such a strong spread for thinking about things, and then perhaps doing other exploration. Let me see here. Do I want to... I'm not sure that I'll show you some of the images, but this review is really not about the images. It's about how to use the deck. And it's not an intuitive deck. You're not going to look at these. Well, some of it is a little bit. You're not going to look at these usually, though, and know what the meaning is. But what I found, that even though there's like 60-some cards, yep, 65 cards, I think that feline is the last one, is that they're really not, at least for me, I was able to connect with them, and although I still do check out the guidebook on occasion, I know who they are. I know who they are. I get them. And so hopefully others would have the same experience. So one of the most non-intuitive is these things that the person who wrote the guidebook called singers. I think of them as radiances because they are essences of light. And so these are what I call the essence of the situation. She calls them the singers. These are the essence. This one is the guardian of the gate. And I love how this looks actually rather like a broom. And then we have characters. 90% of this deck is characters. Okay, it will be the retriever. Oh, the first cards that came up with for me when I started using this deck. Okay, and so the name is evocative. He retrieves memories. He retrieves lost passions and presents them to you. Anything that's lost. And then you have more. This is more the look of the fairy guides. And this is the fairy who was kissed by pixies. Happy things. Happiness, happiness. That's more the light kind of fairy energy that we would associate with fairies. And is in this deck, but it's not exclusive to this deck. And I even had someone who had, I told him, I said, you have right here the hippie peace love reading for this deck. You just had this marvelous happy love, love, love. Out of all 5 of the cards was just screaming love. And but that has been very challenging for this particular person. That was a challenging reading. It was a challenging thing for him to hear at that time. So even when they're nice, they can be naughty. This is the Glenconner. I have no idea the correct pronunciation. He's one of the bogeys. Self-deception, deception in general, deception by others. And then we have a helper. Caitlin the Sylph is a helper. The undressing of the salad. Just all kinds of crazy. The she, there's Solus. himself from the she. So although there's is there gender weight here? The friends among the helpers. Oh, I love the green woman among the she. I don't know that there's a gender balance, but there is male and female. There may be more, is there more weight toward the female? I'm not sure. There's a good mix, which I like. I appreciate that many oracle decks and tarot, newer tarot decks have weighted themselves toward the feminine end of the scale. But it can be a little bit problematic at times. Even though women seem to be by far the most interested in issues of tarot, divination type exploration. And, you know, we're redressing kind of an imbalance in the past. It's nice to have a mix. It's nice to have a mix. And I have my lovely, wonderful vintage wisdom oracle deck that's all ladies. So I'm not opposed to that at all. But this has a nice balance of masculine and feminine energy. Okay, so I just wanted to talk because I feel like my fairies get short shrift when people are thinking about a reading, that they're shying away from them a little bit, thinking that they're too light, maybe that they're too weird. I don't know. They are weird. They are a little bit weird, but they do speak. They do speak really directly to people, and can be very helpful when you're trying to explore anything that seems to be blocked or repeated negative patterns, or even if you're wanting to change direction in your life and you're trying to get a feel for what needs to be addressed, what's going for you, what you have going for you, and what's working against you, that sort of thing. So give the fairies a chance. Thank you very much. Bye-bye.